because I've been the big girl and they treat you differently. And then I've been skinnier than I am now and they treat you differently. And then I've been where I am now and then they treat you differently. So you can't make anybody happy. But if you make you happy and if you honor you, life gets so bloody good. Life gets so amazing. And then you hear that stuff and it's kind of water off your back.
The Converse Cowboy Journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers from all walks of life, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I've realized there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved, or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you truly love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. This episode is brought to you by Kimes Ranch and Ghostwood Distilling Company. You just got back from Oklahoma. You went to a branding.
Did.
I'm jealous.
I roped some extra calves for you.
You
Did? I
did,
did,
right
yes.
on.
Yep.
Sweet.
I was pretty poly deficient when I went up there, and it was so They're just like certain groups of people where you just get to relax, and just like completely let go and let down, and like that's that group for me.
Yeah,
and it's always
awesome.
kind of fun to get to see how different people work and do things in different parts of the country.
Yeah,
Oklahoma's different sometimes than Texas, and Texas is pretty dang different than like California, Nevada country that I'm more used to.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're like talking about cowboy styles, right? And how people cowboy out west is different than out in Texas or even in Oklahoma.
Like I'm used to like heading and heeling calves, and it's kind of a different way of learning how to do things, and it's really fun to watch those guys that are so handy. They can roll in there and pick up 2 feet every single time, and I'm like, oh wow, this is totally different. I don't have a header. This is cool. Like I get to learn a new, because you're learning up a whole different way of setting up your shots and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty challenged anyway. Roping or just staying a horseback most of the time. So.
Did you bring your horses up there, or did you ride some of theirs?
No, I got to borrow my buddy's horses, which was really fun because their horses are all broker than mine, always. I'm really good at ruining other people's nice horses. But it was, tell you what, it was a little bit of a challenge though, because it was like they really knew I was coming. They had a nice little Hancock bred horse for me, and it took 2 days to climb a board and a ladder and a whole team of people to get you on board. You sure hope that you don't have to get off.
Yeah. So I've noticed you talked about like those styles from the West Coast to here are different, and following you and watching some of your stuff, the cowboy hat changed from where you were in the West Coast to now. Like I think you found the biggest cowboy hat in Texas, which it looks good on you. But when did that change happen, and like how did that come about?
Well, if we get into a bad situation, it starts to storm, I just really want to be able to provide shelter for everybody to be able to come hide under there. Yeah. It's actually funny. Like I got to go day work at the Sixes like back in 2000. I want to say like 12 or 13, something like that, maybe 14. I'm old enough now at this point that I can't remember times like specific dates that I thought I would never forget. But I'll never forget, like, Boots gave me such heck for showing up in a flat hat, and I didn't even think about it. But, like, they're not suited to this country with the wind. They are not suited. They are not aerodynamically adjusted for this wind. And I was kind of giggling up in Oklahoma this past weekend because, like, that's some intense wind that they get up there. That's a different kind of weather. I don't know. It just switched. I wasn't in that country, and I've never been very picky on my hats anyway. You can like look back through my terrible history of hat shapes and go, wow, this chick and her hats. And then kind of when we had the house fire, it was like, well, you don't have as many choices as you had before. It just seemed like a good time to switch.
How is that? Talk about that house fire out in California, right? Like, Did you have time to go in and get some things, or was it a surprise and y'all had no idea and just had to get out?
We did, actually. It was really awesome. My dad actually kind kind of kept abreast of the situation. And so he was watching the fires coming, and I was actually in Ojai. They live in Ventura, California, where the Thomas Fire came down. And I was in Ojai that night with dear friends and heard about the fire coming, kind of saw that it wasn't turning, it wasn't stopping. I was like, oh, this isn't good. So I jumped in the pickup, drove down before the cities were like cut off, but before Ojai and Ventura were cut off, because there's only one road going up and down. So once you're stuck in Ojai, like you're stuck. And my dad, my mom, and I got like some guns. I got my saddles, like my grandpa's guns and stuff like that. I got the one guitar. This is the funny thing though. I still don't understand this. I grabbed the one guitar with good insurance on it. I grabbed the Gibson with this guitar has better insurance than I do for my physical self. I grabbed this guitar and I leave the ones that are not insured. But you're not thinking like.
Well, that was my question. I wanted to know, since you did have time, like how do you decide what you're going to get, knowing there's a chance that you're not going to see most of. I don't think
you know until you're like in that situation. And maybe this sounds weird. My dad was a policeman. He was in law enforcement. He's been in war zones, and this sounds like a weird like comparison. But I've been in stressful situations before and handled them pretty darn well. And it was like, oh yeah, the house is going to burn down. Okay, let's be efficient. Let's be fast. Let's get people out and let's get what's important. And I'm actually kind of impressed with the stuff that we got. But then my dad and I actually went back. He had a computer that was there that did not get taken, and he definitely needed that to not be at the fire. So or at the house. So it was still on fire that next morning, like early in the morning. I think we evacuated at like 2 or 3 a.m. And then we went back, he and I, later that morning, and it was still on fire. And we were actually able to put out some of the fire. So on the house. So it kind of looked a little like a Wild West movie set. So like the front looked like, oh, the house is still standing. And then you go to the back and it's just like it's all burned out. And you're like, oh, never mind. So this is where my handling of stressful situations isn't good. We both went into the house. So I love books like more than anything. And there were several first edition, like People of the First Man, Bodmer, Prince Maximilian on fur trade history that were in the house, and several things that like some pieces of art that I knew they weren't like they would never be able to get again. So Dad and I went into the house and we're like, I was throwing books on the front lawn, like maybe they won't burn. We threw this big tin picture out into the road, like hopefully it'll make it. And then I thought my dad had gone into the back of the house and he hadn't, but I could hear him yelling. Like, and it's really loud when like there's that much, because the whole neighborhood was on fire, and it smells like.
So it's close, like you can see it.
Oh yeah, there's flames. Oh yeah, there's flames in the roof, in the walls. Like things are coming down. Like it was wild. So I hear him yelling, and I thought he was in the back of the house. Clever me, I thought I'm gonna go get my dad out of the back. Like, what are you going to do? A 140-pound chick is going to go pull a 200 some odd pound. Sorry, Dad. Shouldn't have just given my weight. Like, out of a burning building. It's not going to happen. But I was like, I'm going to go help my dad. And then it's not like the movies when the house is on fire, but it's really bloody smoky and you get really turned around. And I got stuck in the house. Things were coming down. And ended up with really terrible smoke inhalation, and which is why I kind of sound like a German barmaid now. So I didn't sing for about 2 years after that. I took a couple of shows and tried really hard, but my voice it's changed so much. Like Desert Dwellin' Mama, that album, the last album, we recorded it twice. Went into the studio the first time, did like 3/4 of the record, and looked at my engineer, and I've been working with him since I was 17, and I know like he'll give it to me straight. And I looked at him and I went, this isn't working, is it? And he goes, no, honey, you're done. And you need to give it a break. So it's been interesting, like all of that, just learning the new tool.
Yeah, I definitely, so that's something I want to get into, and I want to back up And if anybody that listens to the show, they know that I'm going to bounce around. It's just how my brain works.
Perfect.
So,
I appreciate that. And I'm caffeinated as always. So
and we have more if we need refills.
Thank you.
I do want to back up though. Let's go back to age of 14. You get into singing cowboy songs. How did you get into 14-year-old girl living on the West Coast? How do you get introduced to cowboy songs?
So I'm actually really weird. So this is the theme throughout everything, that Adrian's caffeinated and weird and awkwardly blunt too. So I actually started out as a mezzo-soprano in opera. I was raised, I was born in Ventura, but I was raised overseas. Family bounced around a lot. And then when we returned to the United States, there were different opportunities to kind of pursue music and all of that we might not have maybe had overseas as much. And my mom was amazing at this sort of thing. She knew I loved to create. She knew I loved music, and she supported the heck out of me. So I was doing college, our local college, I was doing college productions for operas that they would put on when I was 13, which was really fun. And they would all say, man, you've got a really big voice, which is a nice way of saying I'm a loudmouth.
Was that natural though? Like, were you just able to sing from an early age?
I guess so. It's really weird. Like, nobody in my family sings. My grandma sang, I guess, like in church and stuff, but it was never something that I even really thought about. It was just, oh, this is fun, and I'm making noise. So it was just always kind of a natural, like, I made a lot of noise and nobody could shut me up. And I started writing, when we came back to the States, we were able to have horses and cattle again. And that was so exciting. That was like, we have country, because like in Europe, where we were a lot of the time in Scotland, there's not big open spaces like there is here. Yeah. And so coming back to the States was really exciting for us. And I just kind of started writing just for fun, just because I started going, oh, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm thinking. This is what is going on in my mind right now. And this is a good way of doing it. And then my sister, she braided rawhide horse gear, and she had a show that she was going to in Monterey. And I always was trying to find people to play the guitar with me, always. And you could never get somebody that would show up, all the time. Typical musicians, we're always like, oh, I was supposed to be there 3 hours ago. And she had my sister had an old pawn shop guitar that she bought for, I think, $100 or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'll learn how to play the guitar. And I don't remember exactly how it went, but my family and I have this history of bets that I make with my family, particularly my dad, who's like, yeah, you're not going to do that. Like, I once bet him $100 that I could kill a turkey with a knife, and I won the bet, a wild turkey. In fact, I don't think he's actually paid up on that.
I need to hear this story. Were you like hiding out in a tree? And
no, actually, they were out in the pasture, and he just randomly bet that I couldn't chase him down and kill him. So I wounded him first with the shotgun and then chased him down and cut off his head and was like, there. That makes me sound like such a bloodthirsty animal. Like, that sounds terrible. I don't know
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have like a really bad history of bets. And I was kind of like, there was an open mic going on at the show. And I was like, I'm going to sing on the open mic. I've written 2 songs about Nevada. I'm going to go sing.
And how old were you then?
I think I was 13 then, actually. Yeah, I was 13. And they were like, really? Like, you're really going to do that? I was like, yeah, I'll teach myself how to play the guitar. I'd like guitar lessons. And Mom said, well, I've heard that, your fingers have to get tough if you learn how to play. So I locked myself in my room for 3 days and came out and was like, they're tough. I can play it. And I went and played a couple songs in this open mic very badly. And these amazing people heard me and came up to me afterwards and said, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, be a bullfighter or an opera singer or maybe president or maybe a scuba diver or maybe, live in a teepee here and all these things. And they were like, well, we think that you should think about becoming a musician and we'd like to help you. And I was like, that's cool. But my parents told me not to talk to strangers, so out of here. and then they ended up being for real. And they helped me record my first record. They invested in me, and they were amazing. I had no idea what I was doing. It was like such a family thing. We all went into the studio and we're like, here, let's go cut this record. We have no idea what we're doing. Yeah. But they've ended up being, they're my second family. They're actually who I run my cows with, and they're where I went in Utah after the fire. So what were they doing?
Just happened to be at that open mic
that night?
They were
at that cowboy poetry event. They used to love going to those, because cowboy poetry events used to be a thing. Yeah. Like, they used to be, like, in the early to mid-2000s. Like, they were a thing. And I don't really think they're not as big of a deal now as they used to be. But they used to be a pretty, like, happening thing. And
what do you think happened? Why do you think it faded out?
It's actually funny. I, for a long time, said, you guys have got to make the switch to something else, because when this goes boom and bust, it's just like the gold mines, silver mines to me in Nevada. Like, it's going to die out. What do you have in your back pocket? And everybody was like, no. Like, that I worked with was like, no. Like, people love cowboy music. And it's been interesting to see. I think, for one, and I will say this until the day I die, and I've said it since I was a kid, you have to get the young people involved. For years, I would tell gatherings that would ask me, how do we get the young people involved? Like, you're not going to have longevity unless you include the next generation and you make them feel seen. Yeah. And I think there was some, I think the young people a lot of the time felt left out and not seen and kind of isolated. So, folks get older and things kind of die out, which is sad because they were really fun. I enjoyed them. Gear shows and music. And
so you talked about your voice, which is amazing. And I'm curious to know, how has that changed over the years? And like, what does a practice look like? Like, how do you continue to improve your instrument, the voice?
Nobody's ever asked me that before. That's a good question. I love this. It's actually interesting because the voice thing happened after some really difficult things in life. Everything kind of accumulated at the same point, and not having the one thing that I always could depend on felt really overwhelming. Like, quite frankly, it was a little devastating. It was like, I've always had the ability to, and this sounds terrible, but just BS my way through it, even if I didn't feel good. If I had, if I was sick, I could still show up and I could still perform. After the fire, I couldn't trust my voice. And so taking that time off that that vocal specialists recommended, they were like, you got to give it a rest. So my day-to-day life changed hugely. I used to do 100+ dates out of the year, even during high school. During high school, I think I did like 126 dates on my senior year on the road. And that went down to nothing. And it was almost like a little loss of identity in a way. Like, you're a singer that can't sing. So you're writing, you're producing stuff, but you're not actually going out and performing it. But it ended up being a little bit of a blessing in disguise in a weird way. These days, I only practice about 3 or 4 times a week by myself, like for long periods of time. I do short batches of writing when I'm by myself. I try not to sing more than 45 minutes at a time, because if I do, it disappears.
So when you say that, like singing, are you singing songs? Are you practicing?
Writing
like,
and practicing. Or? Yeah. I still do all my vocal warm-ups from opera. I still do my sirens, and I still do like all my breathing exercises and stuff like that, which I think has helped hugely. Mm-hmm. I'm also like, I eat organic honey by literally like the jar full at this point, because it's really good for your throat. It's very soothing for your throat. Cutting out sugar has been huge as much as possible. And caffeine's a huge one as well, which we all see how well that one is working out. It doesn't work out very well.
Why caffeine though? Why is that not good for
I guess it tightens your vocal cords, like restricts them somehow. And I guess it's kind of something that doesn't allow you to sing to your full capacity. Yeah. So that's just one that I refuse. That's one vice that I just refuse to give it up.
Yeah, you got to have some in there.
It's been interesting though, because I think that time off of the road has also showed me a little bit like I love singing. I love performing. I love my music. But I've always loved it whether I'm singing to 3,000 people, 330 or 3. It doesn't I could sing to my dog and be really happy. And so also recognizing that I'm not the kind of person, like I don't party. I don't really drink. I don't do drugs like the majority of the musicians that I'm around most of the time, really hard partying. And that's not bad, but that lifestyle isn't really conducive to who I want to be as a human being. So kind of stepping away from it, I went, I really like being able to say, I'll take these 5 shows this year and that's what I'll do. And the rest of the time I'll get to go work on other stuff and kind of realize that that's different, but it's still just as fulfilling. And if anything, it's kind of being a little bit more honest and true to who I am as a human, because I'd rather go back and read, do homework at night than I would go party.
So you said 2 years is a rough estimate on how long you were out for. Did like the negative chatter in your brain as a human that we all have, like did it ever like throw up doubts of like, you know, is this worth it? And do I need to change my path? Do I want to do something different than singing? Or was it like you knew exactly what you were doing?
No, you know, it's actually interesting that you say that, because I just finished writing the foreword to the new book, and I talk about it a little bit in there, which I don't know that I have before, which that was a horrible, tough period of life. I had gotten a lot of hate online after a stint on television that was not good. And people were telling me to go kill myself, and multiple times a day, and describing horrific things that they were going to do to me and my dog, you know, like the weirdest things that you just don't expect to hear from another human. And although I had kind of seen the negative side of social media, it was like really in your face. And when you weren't doing well anyway, it was kind of like, okay, this is a good thing that I'm stepping back from this, because this feels like a lot. I had a lot of second thoughts. I was like, I don't enjoy the meanness of it. When you're 14 and 15 years old and you are reading comments about yourself online written by grown adults who are being mean, or as you get older and you're reading things that, you know, your peers are saying, if they're negative, which now I don't read anything. I don't even know if there's negative, but that's hard on a person's soul. Yeah, that's really difficult. But I think it was the perfect redirection to acknowledge that touring wasn't fulfilling in every way possible that I needed. So it was almost like a really tough learning experience. And then admittedly, I'd always been prepared for it. Not to lose my voice, but I'd always been prepared to break my leg or break my arm and not be able to perform. And I'd always thought when and if it's not a matter of if something happens, it's a matter of when. Because I've been paying my bills since I was young. My first paying show was when I was 14, and that was when I stepped up to take care of me, you know.
And did you move out early, right? You moved out as a teenager?
I moved into a teepee, a 14-foot Indian lodge.
And how old were you?
I think I was probably, I want to say 12 or 13 at the time, but I was pretty much living outside anyway. I was on my parents' property. And then my sister, she moved to Nevada when I was 14 as well, and she went and got a cowboy job, and then I would go bother her. So I never really had the traditional, and I was homeschooled, so my mom was amazing, and she would come, you know, check on my schoolwork, and she allowed me to explore what I wanted out of life early on, out of the gate, you know, and not say, no, you have to do school this and that way. So
good for her.
She's a cool lady. She really is.
So you moved into the teepee. It was on your parents' property?
Yeah. I had a horse, Cappy, that I moved the lodge around with. You should have seen him the first time we hooked those poles up on him. Oh, gosh. You know, so I grew up reading books like Mystic Warriors of the Plains and People of the First Man and you know, Indianization of Lewis and Clark and stuff that really identified what it was like to watch, you know, Native Americans move across the prairies with these travelways on their horses. And I thought, well, this is easy. Well, I have this little cowboy horse. He's broke. This will be great. Mom says she can still remember the first time she looked out, saw me hooking these poles up to him, and she said it looked like a helicopter and just going around in circles. But he figured it out, and it was great. We'd move camp every few weeks, and
Where would you shower?
I'd go back to the house
You'd go
at
back
that point. That was if I would go back to the house, though.
Yeah.
Mom was really, both of my parents were super cool about the fact that, like, Adrian is probably in a river somewhere or in a cave somewhere or is gone. And if you don't see her for a while, like, that's just her doing her thing. She'll come back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're still cool like that.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, we haven't heard from you in a while. What are you doing? Where have you been?
Yeah. You mentioned the stint on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you're referring to The Voice.
Yeah.
2018.
It was awful. Was it 18? Yeah, it came out in 18. We filmed before the fire. And then it came out like right after the fire happened.
Tell me I'm curious to know about that whole experience. What gave you the idea to do that? Or did they find you? And how does that, like, what are the behind the scenes of The Voice?
So this is going to sound terrible. So there's like a limited amount that I can actually say because I did sign stuff, which is wild to me. I did not find them. They found me. For a little bit, I really wished I hadn't done that because it was a really horrible experience. It was. But I will say it was tough, not because of the people as much as who I was as a person when it was happening. So 2016, 17, 18, I was a pretty mediocre human. Like, I mean, and that sounds weird, but I was just like, in all honesty, I was a really mediocre human being. I was hanging out with not the right people. I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. I was not fulfilled as a human. I wasn't happy. I was really struggling with the fact that I'd finally kind of come to grips with some things that had happened in my past and things that had been out of my control, and that rather than deal with those things, I had just internalized them and ignored them. Did the classic, don't talk about it, don't feel anything, just shove it down and work harder and it'll work itself out. And it doesn't. It comes up to the surface. And that had resulted in me just actually being kind of heartbroken as a human. And I was overweight. I was still wanting to be that human that I thought of myself as in my mind, kind of the ideal version of ourselves that we think of. Like, yeah. I think we all kind of have that version of ourselves that we want to be, that we strive to be. And I had that woman in my mind, but I couldn't quite get over the hurdle of what I was experiencing from my past and what it had done to my brain. And having not admitted it, it created like this brick wall that I hadn't climbed over. And so going through all of that when you're that version of yourself, now I would approach it in a completely different way. It's kind of interesting because in 2018, I think I probably would have told you, dang, I wish I hadn't have done that. 2022, I will tell you that everything I've ever done, I take full responsibility for. And I went on that show and I wasn't the best version of me. And oh my gosh, I learned so much from it. It was amazing. It took me about a year, 10 months after that aired and the house burned and I was homeless. And at that time I was pursuing my undergrad. And I'd actually moved home to finish school because I'd been living out of my truck, doing school, touring. And my parents were like, man, come home, you can finish your degree here, like you're right there, it'll be so cool. And then there was no house. So it was kind of like, you're homeless, you have a truck, you have saddles, you have a guitar, you don't have a voice, and you're getting hate mail on the daily telling you to go kill yourself. Whew. Not the greatest fallout from a stint on television, but it ended up being the best thing ever.
You're a teenager getting hate mail every day. I can't imagine why. Man, people are very hateful. But like, what could you have possibly done on The Voice to deserve any of that?
You want to know something really funny? The biggest thing, literally the biggest thing, aside from just vocal performance, biggest thing was you are fat and ugly and you look like you are 45 years old. You need to literally do the world a favor. And I still have this memory of this one woman who said, I couldn't believe it when you said you were in your early 20s. I thought you would at least been 45. Please go hang yourself in your bathroom.
Man, that is
And I
fucking
thought,
crazy.
man, if I had a bathroom, man, lady, like.
That's the thing. It's so easy for these, I'm going to call them idiots. They're fucking ignorant. And because if they weren't ignorant, I mean, any person who is not ignorant doesn't say things like that. Here's the deal. Like, you're putting yourself out there as an artist.
You are.
Anybody in the public eye, like, you're putting yourself out there. You're being very vulnerable. So, yeah, like, is that to be expected? Well, yeah, like, according to society now, that's to be expected. But, man, that is what a fucking hateful thing to do. And I get very little hate from the Converse Cowboy show. But I just know this. If you're listening and you send hate, you're going to get blocked and deleted very quickly. Because I just don't tolerate it. Like, that is a controllable of mine, right? Like, am I going to tolerate it on my platform? Fuck no, I don't have to.
You have good boundaries with your audience.
It's got to go. And
how have you dealt with that though?
Fucking,
like, I mean,
I'm mad for you. Like that, man. Why would anybody tell another human to go hang themselves because of the way they look or because of the way they're presenting themselves and whatever it may be? Like, I just don't understand how that. I'll tell you what that does. That tells you more about that person than it does about you. That now that I sit here and think about it.
You know what's interesting though that I found, because I have done a lot of thinking on this, and like I said, I'm awkwardly blunt. I was a fat, mediocre, sad person. I was, and you know what? That's okay. I kind of deserved to be able to be fat and miserable at the time. I was dealing with stuff that children shouldn't have to deal with. I was experiencing the fallout from abuse from the time I was little into being a teenager and into being a young woman. And my brain was so messed up. Dealing with day-to-day life was impossible. But it was funny seeing how that didn't make them happy. That version of me didn't make them happy. But this version of me now as well also doesn't make them happy. So I'll still get like, and it's very minimal. But if I see stuff, I just, like you said, I ignore it. I delete it and block it. I don't worry about it. Yeah. Even if I start to read it, I won't. But like the other day, somebody goes, man, you know, you've really joined the vipers of Hollywood. Like, you've become this shallow human. And I'm like, you know, what's funny is that realistically, I'm a very private person. Nobody actually knows where I am, what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. They know nothing of my day-to-day life. Hallelujah. Like, they don't know that stuff. They don't need to.
Yeah, it's your choice.
Yeah, none of their day. And some people choose to share that, but I choose not to. And it's funny how when you're like, because I've been the big girl and they treat you differently. And then I've been skinnier than I am now and they treat you differently. And then I've been where I am now and then they treat you differently. So you can't make anybody happy. But if you make you happy and if you honor you, like, life gets so bloody good. Life gets so amazing. And then you hear that stuff and it's kind of water off your back.
Yeah. I want to touch on that, but before I do, like, going back.
This. I like how we're doing the back and forth.
You never know, and this is something I've learned just recently. Like, you never truly know what's going on in somebody else's life, what's going on in somebody else's mind. Like, if I've talked about this before in vlogs, like if somebody breaks their arm, of course we can see it. Their arm's not well. It's broken. It's in a cast. Mentally, you cannot see if that person is broken. They're going to show up with this mask on, this face that everything's fine, and you never know it truly. And you can even ask, "Are you okay?" And they're going to say, "Yeah, I'm fine." Yeah. And I've seen it, man, and I've seen that happen. And then the next weekend, I found out that person committed suicide, and it's like, what the fuck, man? That's so wild to me. And so, for these people, whoever it is that's sending hate, like, is it that much harder to be kind? Like, what do you personally get out of telling someone to go hang themselves, or that you're better off, the world is better off without you?
It's a weird thing to try and see from their point of view, because there's no positive thing that can come out of it.
But to go back to what you were saying, like, you cannot find happiness externally. Like, I've learned that to release any attachment to that thing, right? And attachment being, I have to have this thing, this equals happy. I have to have this person equals me being happy. Fuck that. Whoever's listening, that's not true. And
I didn't realize
get that out
we
of your,
cussed on this podcast. I love this.
Yes,
this is awesome.
Of course, like especially like when I'm trying to make a point like that, because I feel like so many people get hung up on that, and their mood, their emotions are dictated on something outside of themselves. And so when that, I think there's been a few different books that have helped me realize that. The Way to Love by Anthony DeMello, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. There's a few more, but those are the two main ones. Awareness by Anthony DeMello is another one.
Awareness was good. Yes.
Yeah. All of those, and it was like, oh shit, that's why I feel this way. You know what I mean? Like connecting the dots. But
it's a weird realization too, don't you think? I mean, this is just kind of how I figure it now, but like, I have no control over anything. If the world and my higher power has shown me anything, it is that I have no control over anything except myself. I cannot control anything except my response to those things. Yeah. Like, you like, Meditations is one of my favorite books. To realize the out of control chaos that Marcus Aurelius was experiencing during his lifetime. We have such a habit of feeling like you said, when I'm with this person, I'll be happy. When I'm this weight, I'll be happy. When I have this job, when I have this bag.
This much money. That
exactly. I could be joyful working at a McDonald's right now. Super happy. Tomorrow, if I end up working at a McDonald's for the rest of my life, I will be happy. Not because, I mean, I won't, because that won't be, fulfilling to me as a career.
Right.
But whatever is required of you, you have to have joy rather than happiness. And you have to have joy with nothing, because it can all be taken from you in a second. My sister is one of the most incredible humans I know. She's older than me, and she was a really good cowboy. She still is a really good cowboy. Her health was taken from her in an instant. The way that she made a living as well was taken from her. And she has rebuilt her life out of the sheer understanding that she has no control over what happened to her. It can all be taken away in a second. And if it is, we just have to find a way to allow the joy of trying again tomorrow, and the knowledge that we are the best that we can be that every single day, and leaving nothing on the table at the end of the day. Everybody thinks they're giving a 5 when they're giving a 2.5. If you use up that 5, or you do 5.5 rather than a 2.5, you're going to get to the end of the day and go, okay, come at me. Yeah. I got extra. I got reserves.
My brain's firing all over the place right now. Where to go? I'm impressed that you're into Stoic philosophy and quoting Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, don't mind me.
I love it. And that's what's fascinating to me is those guys over 2,000 years ago are battling the stuff that we're battling today.
Yeah.
The same bullshit. Yeah.
It's true.
The same inner dialogues was going on then as it is now. The same conflicts with other humans were going on then that it is now. And so...
And we always think that we're special. Yeah. We really do. We think that we're the bee's knees, and that we have some, like you said, that we have some unique experience. Really and truly, we're all the same. And kind of returning back to the people that say hateful things. It's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I think frequently people who are not happy with who they are and where they are in life and are hurting want to hurt other people because they see other people living the things that they're not brave enough to do.
I agree.
And even if I fail horrifically and I look like an idiot doing it, by God, I'm going to fail 120%. Yeah. I'm not gonna just fail. I'm gonna fail hard. I'm gonna take her down hard. Yeah. I don't want to limp away from my failure.
But here's what you did from an early age. You showed up to do the thing you love to do. Were you 100% prepared? Your words, not mine. You said no. But you show up and you do this thing, and it opens another door. You meet individual or a group of people that open doors for you. And so I think that's so amazing. And if we could get out of our own way and not chase the dollar, just chase the thing you want to do, those doors will open. It may take longer. I was talking about this the other day. It's like as children, we do the things that we love to do. Why? Because we're not chasing money.
Yeah.
We're not chasing an outcome or a result. We're just doing it because we love to do it. And at some point, if that thing that we love to do is the career path we choose, well, guess what? We have a big fucking head start on everybody else.
Yeah.
And so, but it's hard to do that later in life, you know, like once you get accustomed to a lifestyle or you get accustomed.
Or you have responsibilities.
The responsibilities, yeah.
I mean, it's
families,
a very,
children, all of those things make it difficult. But, and society puts that blanket on you, like go to school, get a job, you get married, you have kids.
X, Y, and Z. This is
it's
how
very
you
linear.
do. Yeah.
But you can't hit reset at any time. I know it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but you can do it.
Have you found that? Because I know the other day, I feel like our like initial phone conversation, I was like, whoa, this is great. If this is indicative of what's going to happen later on, like, I feel like we should be in the square, like standing there talking with the other philosophers. This is so great. Is the pivoting and the redirection in your life ever been one of those things that has challenged you to the point where you go, okay, is it just easier for me to go, I see that I can change. I see that I can go somewhere new. I see that I can pivot and chase this different thing. But I'm just so tired. I'm going to stay here. Have you ever like second guessed yourself and gone, maybe I should just not?
Well, here's the constant question that comes up. Where is the most effective use of my time right now? Because I do a lot of different things. I'm just curious by nature, and so I dabble in a lot of different things, and I envy those that have that one thing and just do that one thing so fucking good.
Yes.
You know, whereas but I also like the fact that I do a number of different things. So like, to answer your question, that's a question I had for you, like, as an artist, how do you know what is productive use of your time, or what is the most effective use of your time? And I ask that because I feel like you could be riding a horse or you could be roping and a song lyric comes to you, or an idea for a song comes to you. So now what could have been like fun is now productive and useful, you know?
Yeah. I think that's actually an interesting question. I think that returns to like that I love it no matter what. Seemed like there's less jingle on the collar that way. The tail is still good. For those of you that are listening and can't see, there's a very happy blue heeler dog with a helicopter tail that just really wants to be a part of this conversation. He's into Stoic philosophy as well. He's also scared of cows. He hides under my horses. You know, it's actually interesting. I think, returning to what we were talking about before with like the poetry gatherings disappearing, I anticipated not being able to do my quote unquote job as a performer. So I ended up starting a clothing line, which is a fantastic creative outlet for me. It's not just a business, it's a creative outlet. It's really fun. It's also very challenging. I wrote a book, kind of by accident, that started out as a letter to a woman who needed help. And that was another creative outlet that ended up being challenging sometimes, but really fun. Writing a song. I mean, I wrote several songs this weekend when we were branding, and it wasn't a challenge. It was just like, oh, what a great byproduct of doing something that I love and having something that I love that I get to share with other people later. I find that the more disciplined I am in my day-to-day life with specific things, the easier it is for me to be an artist and to create. So I don't thrive off of chaos. I know musicians that like thrive off of like, they need to not know where they're going tomorrow and all these things. And like, I need to wake up in the morning and I need to write for 3 hours. I need to have my that morning, that time that I just throw all my thoughts from the night on a page.
Yeah. What time does that happen? What time are you waking up?
So I used to wake up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. Right now my days and nights are turned around, and I'm going to bed at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and I'm going back to sleep and then waking up at like 11 or noon, which is really weird and I hate it. But I call her the muse. We have this joke in my family that the muse visits and then she doesn't let me sleep.
And
I just got to write. I've just got to create, which is actually good because I'm finished up with the new book and we've got a new album that's coming. So it's a good thing, but it's interesting. So the writing, like the more disciplined I am with that, the better my writing gets. And then like that time when I write those songs when I'm horseback, it's productive. Like they produce good songs rather than just meaningless words that I don't do anything with. It is an interesting balance though. Like,
yeah, it's something I ponder often as an entrepreneur.
The business.
Streamlining my time. Yeah, it's hard. It's like I
Yeah.
have two different parts of my brain. I guess it's like this balance that's ever evolving,
Yeah.
like I need to be very disciplined. I get something out of being structured and disciplined, but I also get a lot out of just kind of letting go at times. And it's like this ebb and flow, figuring it out.
the dichotomy of having a creative side and an artist side of yourself, and then having that business / entrepreneur, like, and not extinguishing one, to the aid of the other. It's weird.
Yeah, but it's like something fulfilling to be able to just get lost in this flow state.
Yeah.
And I'm focused solely on the process. I don't give a shit about the result. Not to say I don't want to do a good job. And so that's where this balance thing comes at, because yeah, I want people to like what I'm doing. Yes, I want to be proud of what I'm doing. But at the same time, I also just want to do what I want to do and enjoy that for that thing, if that makes sense.
You want to enjoy the process.
Yeah, I want to enjoy the process. As cliche as that sounds, that is whenever I'm able to just fully let go and be me and do the thing. And then whatever the result is, however many likes I get or how many views we get, like, that's fine. And it truly is, like, I'm okay with it. But I have to be able to ask, did I give myself fully to it? Did I prepare as best I could? What could I have done better?
Where do you feel like the most at home? Like, where do you feel the most you? Is it like behind a mic? Is it writing? Is it reading? Is it horseback? Like, where do you feel the most like who you are as a human?
Yes.
All of the above.
So yeah, it just depends, right? Like,
yeah, day to
it
day.
truly depends, because I love the competition. I was at Silverado right up the road here earlier at a cutting, and that 2.5 minutes, like cutting cows out of a herd, like nothing else matters. Solely focused on that. Not great at it, still learning, but I love it, and that's part of it. I love not being great at it. I love that. That's what keeps me coming back.
Having a challenge.
I love to get up early and write. Like you just said, I'll look up and 3 hours have gone by and who knows what the hell I just wrote, but it's like a vent to get that out of my brain. And so that feels good. Yeah, like all of the things.
When do we get a Converse Cowboy book? When is that coming? When is it coming?
Man, people have asked about that, and it's one of the questions I had for you. Like, I want to know. I've just heard of other people like that have written books, and they said it's one of the hardest things they've ever done. And
Really?
yeah,
It's been a breeze.
so yeah, right? Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if it's on my mind. I do have a little tab in there for a book. I don't know what that would look like.
Is it scary?
I have different ideas. Scary?
Like going
The
from
idea of
different,
it?
going from a different format to like kind of challenging yourself and letting people into your thoughts, like with a book. That's like an intimidating thing because you are burying your soul again, and yet another way to some audience, some faceless, nameless audience that you don't know, that is going to literally, judge your words that you're giving them. It's kind of intimidating, but it's also kind of like, it's a thrill. Your words will live in infamy.
Yeah, no, that part doesn't scare me. Like, it's the unknown. Like, I don't know anything about writing a book. How do you do it? Where do you start? That doesn't bother me. Starting the Converse Cowboy show, however, everything you just said was a fear. Like, it was that was the resistance. Like, putting my shit out there, putting my thoughts and my feelings out into this internet ether for people to see scared the shit out of me, but the more I did it, and that was part of the reason why I did the show, is for the personal growth that has came from it, to be able to confront some of those fears and the resistance and my ego, all of those things. I've gotten to a place where I'm okay with putting my thoughts out there, because I had a friend of mine, another musician, I was telling him all of this same stuff and the reasons that I had the fears of the resistance, and I told him I felt like I was on this island, and he said, shit, man, you're not on the island, you're on the mainland. And so come to find out, that was true. Like,
Yeah.
Everybody is struggling with something. Like, for a long time, I just tried to present perfect, and nobody's perfect.
nobody
Nobody's
believes it
even
either.
close to perfect. Just coming to realize that and be okay with putting that stuff out there, and then continue to do it. You know, I mean, the ego hasn't gone away. That fucker's still right here behind my shoulder waiting to pop out. And so it's a practice, right? Being human is a practice. And so I look at it now, and like going back to what we said earlier, like reality, your life, my life, everybody's is different. It's all based on a perception. It's all based on a perception. We're both sitting here right now, but your perception of me is different than my perception of me, and vice versa. We go get in a car wreck, we get in a car wreck with, their perception is going to be different than mine. The situation is the same a lot of the times, but it's your mindset around those situations. I apologize for the elementary analogies. That was all I had off the top of my head. But, a lot of things I think about that. Situations are the same, yet people react differently.
Yeah, and our daily practices, what we do every day, will define how we react to those different circumstances that we encounter in life. I mean, I can't give you a fighting chance on how I perceive you as a human unless I'm working on myself. I probably am going to perceive somebody differently if I'm not perceiving myself in the right light either. Like,
oh, for sure.
I always think that, I thought about other people differently when I thought of myself differently.
Well, there's a quote. I don't know who said it, but it said...
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it says, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are.
Oh, I love that. Yes. It's true. And it's weird because we have two realities now, right? I mean, you and I both exist in this. Well, sometimes I do. I just got back into the social media groove this past week pretty much. And it's like, I've done a really good job at abandoning it for somebody that makes their living through music and writing. It's like, here, Adrian, go abandon social media for a few months and just go radio silent. It'll be great for business. I'm like, nope, mental health is more important. Y'all can just chill for a while. But with this alternate reality, we have two perceptions too. We have how those who know us in real life, quote unquote, perceive us, and how those on the internet perceive us, and how we show up there, and where that balance is. Again, it's yet another place that it's really, you have to question how do I see myself, and how do I want to show up for these people? A mom the other day came to a show that we did in a Seymour. Jay Cooker played, and I just got to play a couple tunes beforehand. And this little girl came, and she's 4. Actually, she turns 5 on June 12th, which is exciting. It's so exciting. She's just precious. She was there with her dog, Gus. And I was on the drive home that night from Seymour. I was thinking, it's like a 2-hour drive home, and I'm just drinking my black coffee and windows down, no music on, just, thinking and going, how am I showing up for that little girl? We're all about the self-expression and the do what feels good and the do what makes you happy. But also, how am I showing up for that little girl and what she's looking up to? Because like it or not, if she's looking up to you, there's nothing you can do about it. You can say, no, don't look up to me. Look up to somebody else because I'm a really bad example. But there's almost that responsibility put on you personally. And also, I think, within your industry. How do you show up for the ag industry, for the ranching community, for the cowboy world, for the cutting industry? How you show up in all these different ways, that's a lot of responsibility as a human.
What did you come up with?
Came up with it. It's damn terrifying to have a 4-year-old looking at you and then looking at her parents and going, Mom, Dad, I want to ride bucking horses one day. It's like, no. Let's wrap you in bubble wrap. Listen to your mother. Don't do that. Just ride nice broke horses, honey. You don't want to do that. And if you do, please wear a helmet and a vest and don't do all the stupid things I did.
That's funny. I want to nerd out on your writing process for a minute.
Oh, I love this.
Set the scene for me. I know you said sometimes it's late at night, sometimes it's early in the morning. Are you listening to music? Do you have lights on? Do you have lamps going? Set the scene for me, and then I'm sure I'll have more questions as we dive into it.
It's actually weird. My process changes. I used to write really well horseback, And I still to this day write really well when I'm on the road.
How do you write horseback? Phone?
Like I think of things and I'll put them either in the notes of my phone, handiest thing in the world. I've also been known to write things down on my arm if I forget a tally book and I've just got a pen, or it's going to sound really bad, I've only had lip liner pencils with me before, and things get written in lip liner before too. Head injuries and remembering things, like when you kind of go, oh God, I'll remember that in a couple hours. You won't. You'll never remember it. So I always try to
head injury or not, it doesn't stay up there.
Oh, it's so frustrating. When you find something really good and you're like, yes, that's a jewel. I have to remember that. When it disappears, and then And
then you hear the stories about a Townes Van Zandt writing a song in his sleep and rolling over and writing it down.
And then going back to sleep and waking up and
But you just played that one, right? Not long ago.
Yeah, If I Needed You.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah. Sorry, I derailed again.
No, I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's like such a depressing, happy song. I love the sad song. The writing process is weird. Now, I do this, like you said, it could be 3 hours in the morning. It's at least an hour every morning. I have to have coffee. Coffee's like a requirement. If for some reason it kind of triggers my brain, I think, because I started drinking it at such a young age.
Is it the coffee, or is it the smell, or is it just the ritual of all of it?
I think it's the ritual of all of it, and kind of the sensory, knowing I have this hot beverage. It's the trigger. One of the simple pleasures in life, and it always kind of is a sign to me that things are calm. If it's calm enough for me to sit and have a cup of coffee, then it's calm enough for me to take the time to write and to have that moment to breathe. Other than that, having the time, I don't listen to music anymore because it's really distracting to me. I will pick apart music. I listen to weird music too. I listen to Mongolian throat singing a lot. I listen to a lot of weird, random. I listen to a lot of Cuban music right now. It's kind of all over the place. I still listen to a lot of opera, a lot of Southern rock, a lot of blues. But if I turn that on when I'm writing, then I'll focus on the music and be like, whoa, how'd they make that sound? Did I just hear a rainmaker in the back of that? Or and then I'll have to go back, and I obviously go off on rabbit trails really easily, but I do that with writing too. So it's hard. I don't know how people write when they live with other people. I'll say that much. Can't do it. Drives me crazy. Gotta have that alone time or I'll freak out.
So your space, what is it? Is it like an office? Is it
It's anywhere that I am in that moment. Right now I'm in a really tiny space, but I'm literally connected to horses, so I can hear them move in the night. It's actually kind of like being in a teepee. I used to have my horses picketed outside the teepee, and you could hear them they'd move against the lodge, and you could hear all the sounds of them being a horse through the night. And you kind of wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, everything's good. And I still kind of do that now. Wake up. If somebody spooks and runs into a fence or something, I hear it. I'll wake up, go, are they good? Sometimes I'll get up and check on them. Sometimes I'll go back to sleep. I do need it to be aesthetically pleasing. It does need to be a pretty space. It's better if I'm surrounded by books too. Lots of books.
Are you writing pen and paper or on the computer?
I alternate. I'll start the morning with usually 30 minutes to an hour of handwritten, but I can't go fast enough. I'm a really slow writer, and so I'll switch to the computer and then just tap it out. And a lot of the time I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll write stuff on my phone too.
Are you writing with intent, or is it just a journal flow out?
It's a flow out. And it's so weird because Dear Cowgirls and music are written the same way. They just come out. And I never will share a Dear Cowgirl poem unless it's something that I've been struggling with and the idea has just come to me, or something that I've been going through. And it's something that comes to me and I put it down that day. I don't go and write 50 of them and go, here's a Dear Cowgirl. This will fit. I wake up that morning and I try and listen to what the universe, that sounds kind of corny, but what the universe is telling me that day. Yeah. And if my gut says, there's no practical reason that you should share this, Dear Cowgirl. A, it doesn't fit with, X, Y, and Z, whatever's going on with your business, or you haven't been present on social media for 2 months and now you're just going to randomly post a Dear Cowgirl. Queen of that. I'll still go do it, because more than likely a few minutes after I do that, or an hour after, a man or a woman will write me and say, you have no idea how much I needed that today. Or I had no hope, and now I have hope. So it's mostly just that random string of consciousness that comes out, and then I try to edit it later on. I have an amazing editor for the second book, but dang, it's hard because I write like I talk, which, as we've seen for this past little while, is random as heck.
Do you have a specific notebook that you write in?
I'm really picky. Like I will start. I started
Can you hand me that black and
journal
red?
every day, like write a diary just for myself every day. And I actually started one this year, and I hated the paper so much. I never could feel comfortable with it. What are black
and red?
Ooh.
Man, I've got those things just stacked
Oh,
up.
I love
That's a
this.
new-ish one.
Where do you find these?
Amazon.
Are you serious? Great. I'm just going to go give more money
So-
to the machine. Thanks,
Do
man.
you have something like that, or do you have?
They're usually smaller than that
Uh-huh.
because I take them with me in my purse. Right
I
now
see.
it's that little like agenda style. So I'll write down dates and random ideas, and it'll be anything from a poem to, if I'm listening to a lecture, I listen to lectures when I do my cardio or I walk. If I
What kind
hear
of lectures?
like Harvard and Oxford both
Okay.
put classes and courses online, so you can go listen to those. I listened to a really fascinating one on the death penalty the other day that just was, you're walking along like contemplating the meaning of life and going, oh, okay, this professor has great points and this professor has great points, and then this random dude on Facebook wrote this post that correlated with this that I read 2 months ago. I'm going to put them all together in something when I get home from this walk.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
having like a place to put to kind of put all those different thoughts, it's important, but I don't know that I do a good job of keeping them all organized like I should.
That's what fascinates me about musicians. Do you know Elizabeth Cook?
Actually, yes.
Apron Strings?
Yes.
On
Hi,
Outlaw?
y'all. It's Elizabeth Cook. We're here on Apron Strings in Outlaw
That's
Country.
it.
God, I love her. We actually
She's amazing.
we've been planning on doing a show together right before the fire hit.
Oh.
We've been talking about putting something together, and then I kind of didn't follow up on that. But yeah, she's amazing.
I had her on the show about a year ago, I guess,
man.
and she talked about that, just having like filing cabinets full of like songs that she's worked on, not, I guess you wouldn't say finished, but like still in the process. But it's like, how do you keep it organized? How do you keep track of those things?
I just got out of the studio. We just went and laid down scratch tracks for the new record, which I guess I haven't told anybody. Hey, we've got a new record coming. But like I had
What's the name of it going to be?
La Lucha.
La Lucha.
La Lucha.
When does the name of the album come?
Usually it's all over the place. Usually this has been this will be Highway 80, Boots and Pearls, Buckaroo Girl, Desert Dwell Mama. So that was my 4th album. They've all come different ways. Some of them have come with the album. Some of them have come with the specific songs. Sometimes afterwards it's been like, oh, crap, I need a name for this thing.
How many will you have? How many tracks will you have on this one?
I have no idea. I'm going to release a single this summer. I'm really excited about this album. Has a lot of collaborations on it. Got a bunch of really cool people that are joining me on stuff.
Can you allude to who?
They're way cooler than me and way handier than me. They're all men. I'll give you that. They're all handy and they're all men.
Fair enough.
But it's been an interesting process because, like, I probably went into the studio with 25 songs and I came out with 13 scratch tracks, and I'll probably narrow it down to 7 and then write more because I'm always constantly reevaluating those songs and going, why did I think that was good? Like, I'm my harshest critic, and I've never listened to like one of my old albums all the way through because I can't handle it. Because I'll listen to it and go, oh my gosh, you could have done X, Y, and Z. Why did you do it that way, Adrian? Like, do you ever look back on old work?
Yeah, any ambitious person can do that. You know, you look back on whatever it was 6 months ago, and you're like, oh, such an idiot. You know, why did I say that, or why did I do that? Why did I think that was good? I don't know. I think if you do that objectively, like without judgment, without self-judgment, it can be effective, and like that is, I guess, the price that comes with being an ambitious person.
Yeah.
You know? You're always wanting to level up. You're always wanting to get better.
Which is weird when you're an artist as well, I think, because like there's kind of this perception of being an artist as like being a laid back, chilled out. It's cool, man. Like, you know, about everything. And I'm not like that about anything.
Yeah.
I'm like type A. I didn't realize it, but now I'm realizing like, and that, yeah, you're right. That ambition kind of can butt up against the creative part.
He's found a friend.
Lefty, did you find a friend? Hey, how are you doing?
So you talked a little bit about it before, Make America Cowboy Again. Where did the brand come from? And where did it come from and why? Like, what was it that's made you say, this is what I want to do?
Well, you know, funny enough, I didn't actually say this is what I wanted to do. I was pursuing my undergrad at the time, and I was majoring in international relations with a concentration in Middle Eastern studies. And my classmates and I were embroiled in the incredible, how do I describe this? The experience of the election that was going on at that time. And it was so fascinating to me to see how divisive things were, and how angry people got. And I was living out of my truck at the time, and I had this idea for a hat because I had seen these hats, these red and white hats, and I thought, oh, this will be funny. And I had people in a post office in Southern California. I had one woman come up to me, literally screaming at me, telling me, you are the problem with this world. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, ma'am, read the hat. She goes, oh, well, it's really irresponsible of you to wear that. I was like, this is fascinating. This is a fascinating world that we live in. It was an interesting like experience to see how people react to it's red and white, it's evil, or it's red and white, I love them. And like nobody knows what I think politically or anything like that. Like I don't talk about that. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny to see people get all worked up. Some people, it's a slogan, but it's also I think to some people it's a call to action, and it's a reminder of like, hey, there's still cowboys out there, and ooh, I'm proud because I align with that. And then to some people it's kind of like, ooh, that person in that shirt, they're the enemy. And that's been interesting to kind of watch. And it's been shocking to see how it has grown. I will tell you this, I did not expect it to do what it's done. I think the hardest thing has been like, I was kind of, I don't know, getting things copyrighted and trademarked. It's been hard to see knockoffs. The Chinese knockoffs have not been difficult because you just basically can't fight those. Those have been like, well, they're going to do what they're going to do and I can't really do anything about it. But it's been kind of hard when like people who you know have followed you like from the beginning, like you see that kind of being that design taken and like, oh, well, maybe they won't notice and we'll just kind of do our own thing. And you're like, man, like just shout at me. I'd love to work with you. And that's actually been cool. There've been a couple of times that like a couple of weeks ago, somebody reached out to me and went, oh my gosh, I saw this slogan. I had no idea it was yours. I'm so sorry. We took it off the website. We discontinued it. And I'm like, man, I want to work with you. Like, I want you guys to produce stuff now. Yes, let's work together. Like, you're a good human. That's so cool. So it's been kind of cool to like see that side of humanity come out of the woodwork too. And like now, like Capriola's in Elko, Nevada, those people, that store, that's an icon. And like they carry Maca products in there now. And like, that's pretty cool. Like 10-year-old me would be like, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
20 something year old me is kind of so, oh my gosh.
So you seem like the kind, like if you get the idea or like it's a passion project of yours, you just go do it.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Either whether you know how to do it before or you figure it out along the way.
Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing ever with anything. Literally, I'm just dumb enough and convinced enough that it's going to all work out and be perfect that I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work, then I won't do it again. Or if it doesn't work, I might do it harder and just learn a better way of trying next time. I don't think that you can fail if you refuse to stop creating. There are going to be so many different songs that you write, poems that you try to put together, pictures that you take, designs that you draw that are never going to come to fruition in the way that you wish that they would. Mm-hmm. But out of the 300 that fail, the 2 that work are going to be such an incredible return for your soul that you created something worthwhile. And that's what I want to chase, is that return, that little, that design or that book or that poem made somebody feel something. And
that's beautifully said. And that's the thing that most people don't see. They don't see the 298 that didn't work and all of the hours and days and months spent on mastering your craft. They just see the 2 that did work, and then we get into this comparison game, and then that leads us down a whole nother rabbit trail, But I think that's important for people to understand. Like, if you see somebody and they make it look effortless and they're a professional at what they're doing, you'd have zero idea of how much time they spent doing that thing.
Yeah, and what they've battled along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
challenges, struggles they've had to overcome. Again, going back to, like, you don't know what is going on in somebody else's life.
You have no idea. How do you deal with showing up on social media or with this brand that you've built and not comparing? I mean, are you looking at Joe Rogan going, I can do that. I'm going to have millions of followers. Or are you going, I don't really care the size? Or how do you approach that?
I think that comparison game thing, it's like, I think it's good to look at others. Like, how does the quote go? If I've seen further than others, it's only because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Like, so I think it's good to look at others, but don't judge myself if I'm not to where this person is that I may envy or that I may admire. Like, I may, and I've heard songwriters talk about this, like, I may see something I like and replicate it in my own way or in my own style. I'm not stealing it or plagiarizing anything.
You're inspired.
It's a good word. Yep. Inspired by that. So no, I don't look at other followers and like get jealous or anything like that. If anything, I'm like, hell yeah, good for you, man. Like, right on. And I'm just sitting here like taking in your question. And that's my honest answer. Like, I can look at others, be happy for them, and then also learn from them to make myself better. But I've gotten to the place to where it's more for me. Like, it's more selfish, and I say this almost in every show. Like, it's a very selfish thing. Like, I get so much out of it.
I don't know that it's selfish at all, though, because like I get the same thing out of Dear Cowgirl. I get the same thing out of my music. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it. That return, it's that soul return on your investment, that like all that work and everything, it pays off because of that feeling of fulfillment and joy that you get.
I've gotten to the place too, Adrian, it's not, and I've talked about this before, it's not like I don't give a shit about the hate or I don't care about, it's not that. I used to say that, and the fact was I did care about what others said, and I did give a shit. But I say now, like, and I think words are important, the way I phrase it now is I'm okay with it. If I put something genuine, and you said you do something similar, like I'm going to write novels for my Instagram post a lot of times.
Yep.
And it comes from my heart. And so when I put that out there, I'm okay with whatever feedback I may get, good, bad, ugly. It doesn't matter to me because it's for me.
You're at a place that it's just for you.
Yeah.
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 That gives you freedom to create even bigger and better, though.
I feel like it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like that process to get to where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be, to create the best of your ability, only comes when you finally let go of trying to control things.
Yeah. It's well said. Well said. Man, I could sit here and we could keep going.
I could too. This is fun. It's not often you run across like cowboy philosophers. It's kind of cool.
That was, yeah. I enjoy it, like, truly. The Stoic philosophy, whenever I found Ryan Holiday, I was like, oh, man, this is my guy. I dig his books.
Do you? Mm-hmm. It's interesting, like, my dad and my sister now, like, I've got them. My dad is now the Stoic dude. Like,
oh, yeah?
Oh, gosh. It's, and I admire the heck out of him. He's an amazing, amazing human. But it's been interesting, like, our conversations since Stoicism entered my life, which entered it at that difficult time. It was one of those things that I was like, here's this thing to cling to. Be a better human. Here's some ideas of how to be a better human. Like, this seems pretty simple. Okay. Like, these are some great, easy concepts. Really and truly, they're easy concepts to implement into your life.
I would say simple.
Simple, not
concepts,
easy. Yes.
not easy to implement.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very good distinction. Yes.
Yep.
But it's been interesting, like, to see, you know, hit our conversations after, you know, him reading some of these works, just us going, whoa, where's this been our whole lives? This is earth shattering.
Yeah.
You want to go shout it from the rooftops.
Exactly. Okay, what do you think? I'm going to end it with some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
And typically I get musicians to play a song. I didn't give you any advance
I brought a guitar.
warning.
It's there. I'm easy with anything.
Sweet. Well, we'll do that.
Okay.
And I also want you to read this little section here if you're cool with that.
Okay, sure. I'm
Okay.
cool. I'm cool with anything.
Sweet.
I mean, unless it's tap dancing. You don't want me tap dancing. That I'm terrible at.
Are you?
Yeah, awful. Just give me a day or two. I could work on it, buddy.
Okay, rapid fires.
Okay.
This section of the podcast is brought to you by Ghostwood Distilling Company. First question, what is your favorite Western movie?
Ooh, the Cowboys. We've been
Steve-
branding cattle all day.
I just had Steve Frisk up on the show. Do you know Steve? He's an auctioneer.
Yes, sir.
And that was his answer.
Was it
The
really?
Cowboys.
Yes.
So you said you like to read. What is a book or books that you gift most often to others?
Ooh. I would say Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, has been one. And Inside Terrorism by Bruce Hoffman is another one.
Sweet. I haven't heard that one.
See, now I get to gift it to you.
I love it. Favorite venue to play?
This is going to sound really lame. It's also the hardest venue I've ever played, but either Thomas & Mack or AT&T Center. I never have sung with in-ears before, and that was a challenge.
Tell me about that. That was one of the questions I had that I didn't get to, but
Because I took you off on rabbit trails.
so the 7th round of the NFR, you play Thomas & Mack.
Yes, sir.
How do you prepare for that?
You don't. You just have an absolute mental breakdown. So crazy enough. So this has been on my goals. I read my goals every morning. I have daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, 3-month goals, 6-month goals, 9-month goals, a year-long goals, and then 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goals. Like literally, I've got everything.
And you read all of them every morning?
Every morning. Sometimes.
How often do you revise those?
Every day. That night that I sang at the Thomas & Mack Center, I went back to my hotel room and I crossed it off my list. And then I had to rewrite everything out the next day, make it all pretty, because it's something that I'm constantly putting those things in front of my face when I wake up in the morning. Like before I pick up my phone, I'm reading those. That was wild. I think seeing at the American was kind of short notice. I didn't know the song and then was asked to sing it with less than 24 hours notice and then to speak like in the middle of it. And like, it was such a good challenge for me and it was so fun. But it was also the first time I've sung in anywhere that big, a stadium, and I didn't have in-ears, and so I didn't know about the delay. It was like a 10-second delay. So as I'm singing, oh, beautiful for spacious, like it's coming back at you 10 seconds later, and you're like singing over yourself going, whoa, that is wild. Okay, I get why artists are always like holding their ears and like doing all this, because, I've sung pretty small, like 1,000-person venues before, but that's about the extent that I've been doing. So there was
no sound check?
There was a sound check, and it was wild, and I just went, all right, and they said, are you good? And I said, hell yeah, I've got this. Let's go. If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail hard. I'm going to fail in front of thousands of people. You bring it. Thomas & Mack Center had a lot more preparation. We had rehearsals. I fell off the little stage during rehearsals in front of a bunch of my friends. It was fantastic because like 2 seconds after, the gentleman who hired me goes, hey, Adrian, and I'm a ditz. I am a ditz. I will admit that. All the cliches stem from reality. I get lost. I get turned around. The blondness is real. Get up on that little stage. And I also struggle with balance sometimes just from the old knocks on the head. And he goes, Adrian, don't fall off the stage. What do? 3 seconds in, fell right off the stage. It was awesome.
Graceful landing or like flat on your back?
No, not flat on my back. I saved myself in the guitar, but it was like enough that everybody saw it, and I was kind of like, yo, Adrian's in the house. Y'all ready for me to come and mess everything up? I won't do that during the performance. That was really fun, though. And it was actually really wild because my sound guy, this was what was weird, actually. My sound guy, who was miking me up, goes, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, no, sir. I'm so sorry. I don't. He goes, I was your sound man when you were 14 in Utah at a cowboy poetry gathering, and I will never forget you because you called me sir then, and you just called me sir now. And I went, oh, and I said, will you pray with me? And he goes, absolutely. I said, okay. And I held his hands and I prayed with him. And then I went on and I did it. And it was good.
That's amazing.
It was kind of like God was like, here, you know out of Blazing Saddles where he goes, steady as a rock. Yeah, but I shoot with this hand. Both of my hands were doing this. It was like the nerves, but you're not going to see it. I'm going to go on out there. We're going to rock and roll.
Didn't show it.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was amazing. When they brought the 3 gentlemen and the 3 veterans in onto the stage, and I didn't look at anybody else except those 3. I got to go to dinner with a few of them later on, and they, told me about what it was like being in Vietnam and what it was like coming home and their view of that conflict and coming home. It made singing to them really special. It was really cool.
I bet.
All the other people, that was cool, but I just sang to those 3 guys, and that was fun.
I love it.
Yeah, favorite venue, probably Thomas and Mack.
How does that work? You get a phone call?
I literally got a phone call. But here's the weird
Hey,
thing. So nobody can ever get a hold of me. People call me. People tell me all the time, oh, I'm so-and-so's manager. I'm this and such. I want to put you on such and such. So I don't call them back. Like, I change my phone number once a year, literally, so that people can't get a hold of me. Like, I don't want your phone calls. I don't really care. But I have this amazing opportunity for you. Okay, but I'm horseback in the middle of the desert. I don't care. I'm cool. Thank you, though. I'll call, and then sometimes I'll call you back a couple months later. So this poor gentleman couldn't get a hold of me, and I just wouldn't call back. Finally, he was like, call me back.
He was yelling into
He
the
was
voicemail.
like, young lady, if you do not call me back. So I finally called him back. He's like, I'm trying to hire you. Oh, sorry. Don't mind me. It's pretty typical of Adrian. Like, trying to get a hold of you. Hold on, I'll be there when I get back to cell phone service.
Yeah, I love it.
It was a huge honor, though. Like, nothing like that.
No.
Nothing
You do it
like
again.
that. Oh, in a second.
What is a song that you wish you wrote?
Old House in the Hills, Ian Tyson.
Ian Tyson.
Or Tonight We Ride by Tom Russell. Still the best cowboy anthem out there. Cranky son of a gun. Ah.
What is a song that you're glad you wrote?
La Lucha. New one.
You going to play that one today?
Sure.
Okay, you can live anytime in any place for 1 week. When and where do you go?
Pre-1840, American fur trade era, Rocky Mountains.
Thought about this.
Oh,
Sounds
yes.
like- Why pick then? Why go then?
I love the fur trade era. I love American history. I'd love to have seen Ashley's men or Lewis and Clark, or seen their interactions with the Mandan, or any of their, them arriving at Fort Clatsop. I would have loved to have seen what that moment must have been like. Yeah, I would have loved to experienced what our country was like in that moment. Because we're pretty young country too, really and truly.
Yeah, in the scheme of things,
Yeah.
we definitely are. 2 more for you. Do you have a favorite story or a favorite lesson learned from your grandparents?
Actually, yes. My grandpa, who is also my best friend. I talk to him pretty much every day. Didn't finish school and invested in real estate and worked really, really hard and trusted his gut. And he has frequently, throughout any of my ventures with both music and my business, clothing, books, said, you've always trusted your gut, always trust it. And I've always thought of his story of investing in that first house, that he did going. He trusted his gut and he didn't do what everybody thought he should do with school. And it ended up being a great thing for him. I really admire that.
I love it.
Going against the grain.
I love it. You can have a billboard to get a message out to millions of people, metaphorically speaking. What is your message on that billboard?
You are worth saving.
I love it.
Doesn't matter how far gone you think you are. You're always worth saving.
I dig it. Would you do this? The honor of reading that for me?
Sure. Dear Cowgirl, be too pretty to act ugly. Be too aware to be unkind. Be too aware of your blessings to be stressed. Be wild rather than glamorous. Be obsessed with adventure, not wealth. Be so loving that you forget hate. Be passionate rather than popular. Remember, everyone has battles they are fighting, and the only person you need to worry about is you. Admit when you're wrong, love with everything you have, and always ride nice horses.
I love it. I love it. Tell people where they can find you.
buckaroogirl.com and all manners of coffee shops around the country.
Sweet.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for,
That was so much fun.
Of course.
I think we kind of ran over your time.
Oh, no, there is no limit. Yeah,
Okay, sweet.
There is no limit. No,
That
but
was
thank
really
you
fun.
for coming on. I truly enjoyed it.
No, I did too. This was really cool. There are moments in time where you go, oh, that was a good moment in life. This was
Yeah.
one of those good moments in life.
That's what's so cool about this platform, that I again selfishly get to have these conversations that don't just happen out in the everyday
Yeah.
life. So it's pretty neat how it works out.
Well, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, salute.